Greetings, dear Earth family. Welcome to Ascension Stories. Today we have Mathew Purkis. Mathew is an ecological designer and entrepreneur based in South Africa. He has 15 years of pioneering in the fields of permaculture, design, projects, and organizational development. Matt is primarily focused on circular economics, local food systems, green tech, regenerative agriculture, and sustainable human settlement. Hi, Matt. How are you today?
Hey, Natasha. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being on. I really love this topic, these topics that you're bringing to the table. We actually have not discussed this stuff yet. I think it's extremely important to talk about this stuff. So first of all, I would like to ask you, what is circular farming?
Circular economies, in a nutshell, really, it's just understanding how to make money flow within a community more than once. If you look at some really successful cultures like the Arabics or the Jewish folks, they generally make the money circulate within their network, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 7 times. And that can accumulate ultimately generational wealth, but a more equitable way to distribute resources.
Right. Awesome. So the next thing I wanted to ask is your ascension journey, however long, however short, it's up to you.
Sure. Well, okay, let's go back to when I was 20. So that's now 15 years ago. I really felt like quite different in the world, even from a younger age. I had some gifts that I was aware of when I was younger. I was able to kind of tune into other people's thoughts, and I was quite empathetic. Quite a high EQ. When I went for a test, apparently it was off the charts, but like I could really feel people, feel situations, feel the world a lot. And I suppose from that, I had this awareness around me and the inequalities in the world and the environmental damage that we were witnessing even 15 years ago, and it's certainly ramped up since then. And I just had this really strong desire to be the change, to really usher in a new world. And when I was about 18, I finished studying design, and I wanted to figure out what I could do with design because I could see so much potential, connecting the dots and thinking out the box and thinking sideways. And I've discovered this thing called permaculture, and that certainly set me on my ascension journey. That was really understanding how to relate as a human being back to Mother Gaia, the most important thing that we can actually connect with. Yeah. It's God. It's all the highest frequency that we can absorb and be around, So reconnecting with nature was a very profound thing that happened, at that fairly tender age. And I went on a deep dive after that, on a healing journey of healing self, looking at shadow, really embodying the ethics in permaculture, and really understanding what those 12 ethics are really all about and living it as much as I possibly could. And in that process, you kind of develop a vision of something bigger than yourself, and you connect in with spirit, and often can guide you through challenges, having severe faith in what you believe you're here to do, whatever you feel within your body, and how you can find that resonance within listening to your higher self, So all kind of condensed in 15 years of following that journey, we are here today, pretty much on the precipice of the creation of a new world. We see that the matrix is crashing. It's certainly the last dying breaths, I feel, of a system which is completely outdated. And many humans are awake to it and feeding it and connecting with others that are on a similar journey and just trying to figure out what this new world looks like, right? So I think within that, the biggest challenge is to actually look within and deal with ultimately the things that hold us back: fear of greatness, fear of spirituality, fear
Yes.
of the unknown, of God, really grappling with all of these things that make us human and having the spiritual experience on earth, So I would probably nutshell it there, Natasha.
Yeah. Awesome. What would you say is the definition of spirituality? What is spirituality, in your opinion?
Yeah,
Not
sure.
right or wrong, but opinion.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it's a great question. I think many people are reconnecting with this purpose of spirit. For me, it's really honoring and treasuring and having reverence for connection, for heart energy, for the planet, for the cosmos, understanding that we are but a tiny little speck in the context of the universe, if we're ever expanding quantum universe. And yeah, I think quantum physics is actually getting quite close to metaphysics and ultimately spirituality. Really understanding that we're an antenna, we are a quantum computer that's creating our own reality as we speak, So
Yeah.
I think ultimately spirituality is really maintaining a balance of mind, body, spirit, and remaining connected, to higher self, to spirit, and praying and really being open for connection. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. How do you feel about people that kind of follow or give rules of what spirituality is? How do you feel about that? I don't know if you've ever witnessed
Yeah.
things like that. I have.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I think the new age movement has been sent to like twist it out a little bit and make it a bit
Just like
more about
everything else.
self. You know, I think there's so many distractions out there that we really have to listen to our inner guidance
Right?
about what resonates.
Yeah.
And I think for that is the biggest trick, and just remaining open, hey, because there's so many distractions out there these days and access of the age of information, and things like Facebook and social media and mainstream media that are just there to brainwash one, actually.
Yeah.
Having the discipline to remain free of that is a testament within itself, So yeah, I don't really resonate much with the gurus or any of these guys that ultimately have a huge mega following, and I often have to look a little bit deeper and just see if there's any reading in between the lines or who they're associated with, because you've got to double check everything these days. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'd say inner guidance, eh?
Yeah, inner guidance, exactly. What I say is listen to your heart. Same thing.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. There's the golden compass.
Yeah, exactly. And I do feel, to be honest, and this is obviously, I'm not saying that all gurus, like that's a no, but I
Sure.
just find it a little weird personally, when somebody goes by the title guru. Why? Why
Yeah,
do you go that by that title? Why? That's like the up,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah, totally. I mean, I agree. I think there's a bit of spiritual ego involved with giving self a label, especially in the healing realms, or just remaining as humble as possible is actually the real test about spirit and how we apply it. So yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah. And I usually ask this question at the end, but I feel like we are on a roll on this topic here in the beginning. So the question is, what is your opinion of what New Earth is?
Wow. Yeah, sure. Let me just feel that for a minute. A couple of seconds. I think it's really the new earth is really about embracing the higher frequency that our whole cosmos is actually going through. I think that there's a very specific split in frequency or timeline, that if you are connected with the new earth and what's happening in our cosmos, and your spiritual body is strong and your mindset is of that frequency and vibration, we can create pretty much anything within a matter of hours or days, weeks, depending where you are on the scale.
Yeah.
Um, that for me, I think, is the crux of the new earth. Our ability to really, potentially even awaken all of these dormant DNA strands that we've got sitting in our bodies. And for that, you need optimum cellular health. But yeah, I think that's really just even on this pathway of a new earth, time is warping. I mean, things are just going so fast. Weeks are blending into 2 months because we're living in a vortex now, It's not a linear timeline anymore. It's literally a vortex, eh? Yeah. That's what I feel personally.
And do you feel like there's any kind of specific diet that people should head towards?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, over the last couple of months, I've felt the need to detox and yeah, obviously that's a personal journey. It obviously takes discipline and focus and time management to be able to detox effectively. But basically, fruit and veg. I find the fruit is the easiest thing to digest, especially when you're looking to heal the digestive tract or your small intestines and your colon. Lots of fiber just to keep everything nice and clean, and low acidity. I mean, there's so much acid in modern day diet that it's almost impossible to sidestep unless you really are disciplined about growing your own food and juicing and regular water consumption. Yeah, and obviously the naughties like alcohol, coffee, tobacco, those things obviously drop the frequency and acidify your body. So avoiding those things, and lots of water. And I know you've got that really amazing water machine, Natasha, that gives alkalized water and all of that.
So I'm okay. I don't know how to talk about this. So I don't know how deep I want to get into it, but basically, okay, so I guess I could get into it a little bit without talking about what brand, and people perhaps know. So, but
Yeah.
you know which water machine I got. Without getting too much of where I got this information, basically, let's just say this information came from spirit. And so the water being electrocuted, it kind of produces a Frankenstein effect, as in modified, like the way food is modified. So there's like this almost like even though there's electricity in it, it's not the kind of electricity that's actually good for your evolutionary growth, I guess, which is interesting. A lot of us in the health community are all about this machine. We're just like, oh my God, my health is improving. Meanwhile, we're doing all the other wonderful things to improve our health, such as eating fruits and vegetables, which heal themselves. So yeah, there's a bunch of things about this machine. Again, the GMO situation. Eventually down the line, the metal plates, but this is down the line, but the metal plates start eroding, and you don't want heavy metals. You don't want to drink heavy metals. There were several other reasons. I don't currently remember. I would have wrote them down if I, because it was just been a while since I found out. So I am currently kind of trying to I still drink like 1 cup a day because it still gives you like, like kind of energy, because the extra, I don't know, electricity or I don't know. But I don't drink it all day. I just drink regular filtered water. What else? Oh, you know what I noticed? And so when it comes to this machine, they talk about the hydrogen being split and it really hydrating all your cells and everything. Meanwhile, everybody that I know that drinks this water, including pets, everybody's extremely dehydrated and is like, like,
Wow.
yeah. So that's something interesting. And I did notice my skin like at the beginning, but then it adjusted, started to kind of get extra dry. So like my
Hmm.
understanding is that the cell, your body's just like, I'm dehydrated, and all we're doing is feeding this water that doesn't exactly.
Mhm.
And I've tried talking to a couple of people about it that sell the machines. I was somebody that was selling the machines as well. um, and they don't want to hear it, which I understand and I respect, because
Sure.
we're just human, we're doing our best. They put
Mhm.
their money into it. They're this is the way that this is the way they make their income. Why would they want
Mhm.
to hear it? So we put
Mhm.
blinders on as humans. We put blinders on. We don't want to
Sure.
hear things. We just like, oh, close the laptop, or just like, oh, no thank you. And I'm just like, okay, I tried. Anyway, so point is, damn, this machine is I was so
Not
excited.
what it is. Yeah, not what it is made out to be. But at the end of the day, when you look at the science of structured water, there's definitely something there. The Dr. Immortal's work,
Definitely.
uh, as you know.
Definitely. I
Mm.
don't know the topic to when it comes to other I don't know if there's other forms of structured water, if there's other ways to make it other than
Mm.
electrocuting it. Do you
Mhm.
are you familiar with this at all?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's ways to make water flow. So one of the practices is actually in biodynamic agriculture, where you put water through a flow form, and it basically creates natural patterns, and then it realigns into its natural, I suppose, set into structure. Because if it goes through any water pipes with a 90-degree angle, it changes the structure. So by the time it comes out the tap, it's so unaligned
Mm,
that putting it through this natural flow form, which also oxygenates the water and reconnects the cellular structure, that for the human body is optimum. Yeah. So flow forms are an amazing thing.
beautiful. Yeah, so this machine, there was the idea was to get it as close to nature as possible, like as in infusing with electricity. But it's not coming from nature.
Sure.
Just because you electrocute something, doesn't,
Yeah.
um uh you, have you seen um things out there that basically, uh how do I explain this? Certain structures were water reserves. They have like
Hmm.
smart structures. Have you seen those?
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
they played like notes on the organ that just, I feel like there was something that they created structured water
Yes.
using those
Yes.
systems. And I feel like the cathedrals with the organs, I feel like that was what caused or created the structured water, and it
Mhm.
was natural and it was all over the place, and somehow that got destroyed and wiped from history.
Pretty much. It's pretty much what happened, Natasha. There's so much evidence around the world, even with the Tartarian Empire, which
Exactly.
I think comes, yeah, from your neck of the woods up there. And yeah, amazing architecture that has been uncovered. And the history books have been rewritten. So I mean, if we've got fake news now, we can imagine what history is like.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. I've always been like reluctant to history
Uh-huh.
and reluctant to politics, to then later on realize why. I think I have this bullshit meter just like eh.
Totally.
But I
Yeah, that's not part of the new world. That's for sure.
yeah, just couldn't. I remember, I think it was in my 20s, just kind of staring at the news, just like really wanting to pay attention. And it was just like, "Meow, meow, 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 meow." I literally just could not.
Yeah, you're immune to the brainwashing, so you can give thanks for that.
Yes, I see right through, like whenever something comes out, I'm like, true, not true.
Mm.
Yeah,
Good inner guidance system that you got.
yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Got me through all of my life. Like I didn't have kind of like, I felt I felt like like it's a bad thing that I didn't really have guidance growing up. But then again, I feel like I was blessed with this inner guidance, and I didn't have to, and I didn't have any unconditioning to do, like I wasn't,
Mm.
I was just kind of left, you know, to my
Yeah,
own whatever. So yeah. Um,
nice.
so all right. So I want to talk about there's a few things that I wrote down that I feel like we could cover. So
Mhm.
the first thing is what is no, let's talk about the path of the human condition.
Yeah, right. I mean, well, that's been something that many philosophers have been writing about even since Plato in the late 1800s, and he was talking about the humans being in the cave and watching the shadows on the wall, and the puppet masters were playing with the shadows, and the humans were stuck in the cave and watching the shadows on the wall and not wanting to climb out the cave. So it's been covered in so many different ways, and I think the recent author from Australia, um, and he's writing a lot about the human condition. Some really fascinating work. I haven't finished the book yet, but I'd highly recommend it. Transformation Movement, based out of Australia. And he writes quite a lot about the human condition and the factors to where we are as a species. And there's a couple of different theories around it, whether we are a species with amnesia and we kind of coming back into a simulation. We don't remember our past lives or our ancient wisdom that we've had and hold within our DNA. The fact that we can access collective consciousness in the Akashic records is something that we don't know how to tap in as a species anymore. We've also already forgotten about the vibration and frequency and various techniques that can heal on a cellular level within a couple of hours of a chamber. There's been so many suppressed technologies that have been covered from the 1800s even up to now that were all around frequency and understanding that, Nikola Tesla was on it, 3, 6, and 9, understanding that's the key to the universe. And that's really, I think, when you start exploring quantum physics, a very similar type of scientific understanding, and it's backed by, undisputable data. So there's so much there that are starting to bridge. And it's just an interesting time to be alive when we're uncovering all of this ancient wisdom, remembering within our own spirits and bodies, and some of us are remembering. There's documented people where they're like all of a sudden getting their telepathy back and certain other gifts, and I think the further down the line of the new world we go, who knows what you're going to be witnessing. So exciting.
Yeah, definitely exciting. Yeah, what a time to be alive for sure. And it's definitely a whole array of everything from
Yeah,
from the good and the blissful to the holy fucking shit, what the fuck.
yeah. What are you guys doing, you crazy bunch of bastards? Yeah.
It's crazy,
Yeah,
but yeah, we're doing it. We're doing our best,
that's
doing
it.
the human thing. Definitely doesn't help that
Totally.
we can't, most of us can't remember. I
Yeah,
definitely would love to have my full memories back. I just kind of
sure.
know what I'm supposed to be doing, but that's like not not even the full array of what I'm supposed to be doing. And I really would like to really know info, not just like,
Sure.
the basics.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to get there, obviously. Through consistent spiritual practice and committing to the path of ascension, and really doing the work is one way. That would be probably the most recommended way. It takes a bit longer, but you really work through it and you get to grips with yourself through the process. Obviously, plant medicines open up the door,
Yeah.
but they just show you what's there, and it's you that actually has to continue the journey, and especially the integration post-plant journeys. And so many people hop around from different plants to different plants, and 10 ayahuasca journeys in a year, and we're all enlightened. But there's very little
Yeah.
embodiment of the lessons happening within there, and actually having to reground your soul back into your body through also using things like wild pear bark and other plants that can ground you back into your body. Otherwise, I've seen a couple of guys who've taken too much plant and they're out there in 5D and they can't get themselves back, you know.
Right.
So there's yeah, like we say, different ways, different risks associated with this path.
Yeah.
But yeah, meditation is, you know, what the yogis and so many people around the world now are using as a technique.
Yeah.
Breathing,
Go outside.
what it is, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to, it's so important to make sure that you ground yourself, especially like you said, after plant medicine. 5D, you know, great, wonderful. I want to be there. I want to be there constantly, but people need to understand that you could have multidimensional consciousness. You could be 5D, but you need to be anchored to the physical reality. If you're just like in the clouds, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be human. You're supposed to be grounded.
Absolutely. And this is where we manifesting is in this 3/4D realm at the moment. And we have to have a handle on that. You know, we have to understand how we create our reality and have to structure time and be disciplined and show up. And, you know, one of those important things about getting stuff done. And that doesn't happen when you wafty out there. So, yeah.
Yeah. How do you get things done? Absolutely. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned plant medicine. I don't currently recall if the prior episodes, but definitely the last two prior to this one, we talked about plant medicine quite a bit. So it just seems to be a theme. I completely I completely definitely, like, I agree with what you said. Like, I think plant medicine is extremely important depending on the person. It's not for everybody, for sure. If you are very, very sensitive, if your mind's very sensitive, it might not be for you. If you're, there's so many factors. If you're not like on antidepressants and all that stuff, like, you know, because that, yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, and it's definitely just a tool. And I feel like a lot of the healing comes afterwards. You do have to integrate, like you said, and kind of take the lessons that the plant medicine shows you. Not just like, I did it and I'm so wonderful. It's
there's that potential spiritual ego coming in there, you know. And yeah, like you say, plants are just a doorway, and it's really up to developing a relationship with plants as well over time. And often it's microdosing, you know, even medicinal mushrooms, for example. You don't want to have huge amounts. You want to take smaller amounts combined with other plants. And I think the world of plant medicine, not only the psychedelic side of things, but also the traditional plants in South Africa here, we've got a very rich heritage of indigenous knowledge around medicinals and the fynbos that the Khoisan use. And there's a huge amount of indigenous knowledge around combinations of plants for different ailments, for different mental conditions. You know, I find that realm absolutely fascinating when we start to explore spirits and plants, because I firmly believe that each plant has a spirit, and that one is either guided to work with you if you're receptive to the teachings of plants. And then it's really just about listening to the body, and within that process of ingesting the plants and working with them over a period of time and feeling how it works with you. Yeah, you kind of got you got to know what you're doing. You just can't just be throwing plants in your mouth. You know? You got to have a little bit of a background understanding. But then, yeah, that comes with being a plant person. You know, if you enjoy growing plants, you generally like ingesting them too.
Yeah. Curious, you said there's plants for your mind. I'm not familiar. Would you enlighten us?
Sure. Well, I had in my early 20s and I would say into my even late 20s, I struggled with a lot of self-doubt, lack of confidence, and lack of courage in certain situations. And I consulted a Sangoma here in South Africa, and he took me on one of the journeys to receive and to go on a mission to go and get my soul contract. And we took a number of plant medicines throughout the day, but there's this white root called the dream root, and if you froth it up in water and you ingest the foam and you rub it in your eyes and you put it in your ears, you can actually when you're meditating, you can go into the underworld with this plant. And that was one of the very profound experiences that I had, which helped me really understand what I'm here to do, because I went and got my soul contract, and I read it, and it really resonated, and it was what I was already doing. So it was like quite a strong affirmation. So that's just one small example of understanding indigenous knowledge and the power that sits with all of these ancient cultures. I mean, North America, with the Hopi Indians, also really rich indigenous knowledge around that, in South America too, even in Russia and some of the Eastern Bloc, also like a wonderful, amazing indigenous knowledge, which are linked to civilizations which have also been removed from history. So, it's all part of the course.
Absolutely. Let's get into the shadow and healing work required to embody your divine purpose, which I feel like we're already talking about.
Yeah, that is a good flowing question into the next. I think there's a lot of people that are grappling with why they're here. They know that they've been sent here for a reason, especially the star seeds, the light workers, the elementals, and everyone who's really connected with this path that we were walking. And that process of self-discovery is a very personal journey. You can't advise anyone on it. You have to be walking the path and putting the one foot in front of the other and following the resonance and synergy and the flow. And you've got to act on that with commitment and vigor and belief. And then it keeps flowing. And the more that you walk, the more you discover. It's like going on a really long hike. And you've got to be prepared for that hike,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot, but it's worth it. It feels
Totally.
really good. It feels really good to rid yourself from the things that weigh us down, and to be embodied and to feel spirit inside you, and brighter. It just feels good.
It does, and that's the beauty about self-love, which is one of the most important parts about dealing with shadow and healing, is looking at the parts of yourself that you don't like and that perhaps trigger other people or trigger yourself even, and working through those consciously and identifying, acknowledging them, but also loving yourself for them. And then often that integrates into the light, because you shine the light in the shadow, and it's absorbed into the light. So that's alchemy. That's really what alchemy is about on the human spirit.
Right. So the self-love is so very important on this journey. So things like stuff that, let's say, a person has done, and or even continue to do, and they tend to kind of what's a good word? I'm gonna say circulate through. That's not a good word, but it works. Circulate through all these feelings of guilt and shame, like because it's they can't fix their pattern, or they're having trouble with their pattern. And it's like, the way I see it is, it's okay, forgive yourself just whenever let's say you have like some kind of reaction to something, just instead of feeling shame, because that's going to just plunge you even lower, instead of feeling shamed, kind of forgive yourself for just being human. You're just a product of your environment, and we're all trying to do our best. And what I recommend is, when something happens, again, if it's like, let's say, a reaction that you don't like, that has occurred, that you reacted badly or whatever, more so forgive yourself right away. You don't want to carry that, but what you should do is, okay, I'll do better next time. That's it. And it might continue to happen. Just continue telling yourself, I'll do better next time. If it's just words, though, if you continue just like, if these are just words, it's not actual intention and actual follow through, then that's like lying to yourself, and that's just wasting your time. You want to be miserable. But attempt to restructure your patterns are negative because you want to love yourself. That is the number one thing, in my opinion, on the spiritual journey.
Mhm.
Learning how to and remaining in self-love, because I feel like that's the only way that you'll actually be any good to this world. Otherwise,
100%.
you're a mess and you're causing more mess. Let's be honest.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And yeah, still grappling with that, by no means
Nobody's perfect. Everybody
yeah,
messes up.
exactly.
Fine, I'll do better next time. Who doesn't?
Yeah,
It's
sure.
okay. There's no reason to punish yourself. I'll try to do better next time.
Mhm.
We have to make the moves, because if we don't, it's hard to love ourselves.
Yep, absolutely. And the self-talk associated with that, and conversation with yourself is a conversation to God, and how you talk to yourself is also how you talk to others. So yeah, it's a mirror. That's the beauty of this game.
Yeah, and we're all just doing our best. Nobody's perfect. It's okay. Anybody's listening, it's okay that you mess up. We all mess up. I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't mess up. We gotta forgive ourselves and tell ourselves, next time I'll do my best to do better. And
Good.
there are just empty words once again. Then I mean, just go ahead and do that thing. Just fucking own it. At this point, you don't want to rise up. That's fine. That's a path. It's okay. But
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want ease, if you want purpose, if you want to feel good, if you want to feel light, if you want to be able to love yourself and therefore be loved and love others, you do need to make changes for sure.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. All right.
It's
I'll leave.
honesty with yourself too.
Huh?
It's such an honesty, being honest with self and
Right.
owning it. When you do mess up, you got to own it, eh?
Yeah.
Deal with the consequences, take it on the chin, and yeah, like you said, do better next time.
That's it. That's all we could do. Forgiveness, that's fine. There's no reason to feel shame or guilt. Let it go. I forgive myself. I want to make a change. Cool. I don't want to make a change. Cool. It's all a choice. It's all good. It's just, if you want to feel better, just actually do better next time. That's it. That's all it comes down to. Or try.
Yeah,
And there is no limit. There is no, 3 strikes you're out. No. It could be as long as you want, but you're suffering if you continue to stretch it out. So for
absolutely.
yourself. Yeah. All right. So let's see. What's the next thing I wanted to talk about? Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Okay, so I want to talk to you about this topic, the power of permaculture and regenerative agriculture in building the new world.
Yeah, I mean that's right in my sweet spot. I think that for me is really where globally we're shifting towards. I think there's so much potential when you look at how damaging agriculture's been over the last 100 years, since the advent of chemical agriculture, which is warfare in my book, on the planet and the soil microbiome and the human microbiome and the human health. And yeah, we're just seeing the obvious effects of what we're eating with the global population. We can just see how terribly unnatural it is. We're seeing obviously the ecosystem collapse and the pollution of the waterways and all the nitrates. But yeah, the solution is embarrassingly simple actually, and that's learn how to farm with nature. Remember what we did in the past. It was only 100 years ago, and there's still some great grandparents around that knew how to do it then. And there's amazing science that's associated with more ecological ways of production, ecological design, biomimicry, incredible field. I'm not sure if you've heard of biomimicry, but that's really the science of studying nature and emulating nature with some of our most complex human design challenges. And biomimicry as a field of study and a design field is fascinating. So when you overlay biomimicry, regenerative agriculture, and permaculture, you really have the tools and methodologies to design anything here. Research has done the research and development over billions of years, and often has 10 solutions for one of the challenges that we do. And I think if we removed ourselves off the top of the pyramid to think that we're the most sophisticated species on the planet, and we put our egos aside
Right.
and we learn from nature,
Right.
we would really learn a couple of things. So yeah, but there's just so much potential, and what's happening around the world with this movement is blowing my mind every week. Specifically here in South Africa, when we, I mean, there were obviously pioneers before I, 20, 30, 40 years doing this, and just builds on every generation. And the more people start to learn how to use the techniques and farm like this and teach people how to do this, it catches on like a revolution, man. I mean, this is a global revolution on every single continent, in every single city, in every single peri-urban and rural community. There's permaculture. You'll see it, and that's only taken 50 years really, since the advent of it, to restructure the way that we can live in natural systems. Sustainable human settlements are part of that. We've got such massive tracts of land, and we're trying to shove everyone into these smart cities, and it's just really a slippery slope. And the sooner that we, as other people that don't want that life for ourselves, step up, get organized, find your communities, and start becoming localized nodes where we produce what we need, food-wise, agriculturally, livestock, medicines, various byproducts that we can make as distributed networks, even looking to nature to see how we can design these distributed networks, like mycelia, for example. A fantastic way to look at how an interconnected organism underneath the soil connects, a whole ecosystem together, and then pops up with one little fruit, which is the mushroom. And you could think about that mushroom being a node. And that node has several sustainable human settlements around it that are all connected and sharing resources like nutrients. And when we start looking at these natural systems and patterns that we can call from to design a sustainable future or a regenerative future, it's endless. The potential is mind-boggling. So that's a very exciting field. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I can't wait till this knowledge, this wisdom spreads throughout the world, or everybody finally can know what's going on. Because we're kind of, my understanding is a lot of us are just kind of like learning, little bits here and there. We're kind of confused. We're kind of learning. There's so little, in my opinion, amount of people actually knowing the proper way to do it. Like monoculture is just not the way. My understanding is that it's spiritually unhealthy to have not a, like, there needs to be variety. There needs to be interaction. To just have one crop, extremely unhealthy. It's
Exactly.
like spiritually sick, these plants, my understanding anyway.
Totally. There's like no life force in the soil.
Yes.
Nutrients are lacking in the food.
Yeah.
You have to eat, I don't know what the stat is, but it's like 7 apples today than you needed to eat like 60 years ago to get the same nutrient density.
It's crazy.
All the stats and figures are pointing in that direction. It's like, go regen, go organic, localize your food.
Yeah.
Stay away from retail. And then you go into a shop and it's just crazy, man. There's aisles and aisles and aisles of processed stuff, which isn't food, and we have to pay money for that, And that's on the back of massive trucks which are carting it up and down the countryside. Lots of carbon. It just makes no logical sense. Like the pears are grown in Argentina, flown to the UK to get washed and then resold in North America. It's like mental when you start understanding how this food system works. It's completely broken. Sure. But I mean, we're going to see it now with the turbulent socio-economic situation around the world now. Unfortunately, war is there, and that obviously impacts many things down the line. From price of fuel to cost of transporting food that's passed on to the consumer. Before we know it, it's going to be a luxury to have certain foods, and the sooner that we're heading there. Yeah, quickly. very quickly, especially with this lot trying all their games. They really are trying their best, but the people are winning, Natasha. That's the thing that I have to say tonight,
I agree.
is that you see all of these little nodes of resistance popping up around the planet. And
It's
it's just absolutely amazing to witness and to be part of that and sharing that love, man. It's love frequency. That's where we've got to be.
Yeah, I agree. We're definitely little by little waking up. I feel like the latest media push is
Yeah.
doing a lot of waking people up as well. It's
If the
just
last 2 years weren't anything to go by, I mean, surely this one is something that's,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know why people still watch that box, eh?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, because the media is always taking care of us. That's what's up. Let's continue to trust what they say. Have you seen the movie, or I guess more so it's called a documentary? The documentary is called Biggest Little Farm.
I have. It's
You have?
brilliant. Yeah, it's really great. Really great.
So I was just having a sensitive day,
Uh-huh.
but I'm also getting emotional just talking about it. So maybe it wasn't just that, but I cried from the beginning till the end, and there were some periods where I didn't cry. I think
Uh-huh.
I cried more during that than I've ever cried in watching anything ever.
Brilliant. It just shows how much it spoke to you, it resonated with your soul. That's what you want for yourself, so that's
And for
amazing.
myself in this world, I want the world to have this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't all be living like that,
And
this
your
control
dreams
system
came
that's,
true.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The thing is that we need to ramp it up, Natasha, you see, and guys like Xavier Hawke are also doing great work,
Yeah.
figuring out what these social governance systems look like and how that relates to economies of scale. And it's all very, very important work. And, there's just so many solutions out there. There's more solutions than we can actually comprehend. And when you start digging around each network or each country, there's people developing localized solutions for local problems.
Right.
And that's really what it's all about. I think the biggest pushback of the spiritual awakening is understanding that no one is going to save us. No return of God or the rapture.
Right.
It's up to us, man. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We are God. We are divine beings. And it's how we want to create with this God-given potential that we have.
Yeah.
Our quantum computer in our head, our spirit, our heart, and our gut. We're an amazing organism. I mean, we can do whatever we want to do.
Right. We are the physical anchor to spirit. So
Yeah.
it's not like God is gonna, or spirit is gonna come down. We are spirit, like you said. We are God, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are here. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We just need to like get over this whole save me complex.
Uh-huh. Which
It's
was put there. Which was
right.
put there on purpose,
Right. You're right.
Externalizing spirituality, so looking for something out there to fulfill you within. It's one of those very small twists in the religious narrative, which has got many, many millions of people, unfortunately. And not to say that there's anything bad about religion per se, but it's when we look outside to fill this void within,
Right.
and we also then give away our power to something outside of ourselves that we've got within. That's what Christ was about. That's what Buddha was about. That's what all of these main G's were about. They just had a good frequency and a good vibration. They showed love. They healed people. They did amazing feats of incredible things. I'm sure we could do it ourselves if we wanted to, if we practiced long enough. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is commitment to the vision of working smart through networks.
Yeah, so I think that this is what a lot of people are grappling with around the world. to try and devise these solutions around a new world, breaking free of the banking system, finding a new way for politics, redesigning our local food systems, figuring out sustainable construction techniques, ethical applications of technology, resource management. You know, there's so many different things that are happening, and there's so many pockets of creativity and divine intervention, I think, actually, where there's just so much potential within the network. And if we see a problem, like a corrupt government forcing tyrannical mandates, for example, and we wanted to bypass that, we could. And the network's already designed it. So in our case here, when all of these mandates started rolling out and it was getting a little bit hairy, you should have seen how quickly people came together. I mean, we're still connected now. We've got multiple WhatsApp groups. There's people looking for land. There's people facilitating exchange of land. There's people settling down into these micro communities. There's a whole bunch of information exchange, alternative trade platforms that are popping up. It's wild, man. And this is like a year and a half of we as the network and sovereign people applying ourselves to this problem that we saw. And boom, voila. We've got like 17 solutions that are ready to go. Now the only thing we need is this transfer of land and basically habitation or custodianship of the land and formalizing those agreements. And then there's going to be a massive shift from people out the city back to the rural areas, you know, where we can't be controlled and where we live a sovereign free life and we can look after our health and our families. We don't have to work this 9-to-5 nonsense on a hamster wheel, paying tax to guys who just steal it at the end of the day. You know?
Use it for horrible things.
Yeah, and doing horrible things. I mean, horrible things like that, very, very dark things, and have been for thousands of years. And I think this is also one thing that many people don't want to admit, is that we've been living in this complete charade where, you know, everyone who's meant to have our backs, told to have our backs, whether it be school, or government, or your corporate job, but no, when you see the rubber hitting the road, it's really not that at all. It's about removal of human rights and often exploitation of environmental rights. So, like, what are we going to do about it? And we're going to carry on watching the box on the wall and listening to the propaganda? No. We're going to start sovereign communities that are self-governed, and we grow and create and make and develop the life that we want to live. You know, I mean, we've got that option. We've got that option, guys. Like, why don't we all just do it? Let's just start. Whether it be planting a couple of veggies at home, or networking with your neighbors, or starting a community action network, reaching out at your local school, networking. The power's in the network, eh? Like the stronger that we can consolidate our businesses, our skills, our passions, our visions, our actions, if we do those 5 things, we will be living in the new world. And that's up to us, eh? Yeah.
Really. I feel like I'm not seeing that here in the US at all, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. No. Unless for whatever reason that's just escaping me, but I'm not seeing anything, because I've been wanting to move to something like that, to be part of something like that, and I just don't see anything like that.
I'm sure there's some out there, but they're probably keeping a little bit under the radar, you know.
Yeah.
Colorado is strong, Arizona is strong, I'm sure Texas is strong.
Yeah.
You know, the areas that are a little bit away from these hardcore city centers like DC and the likes, New York, and, you know, anywhere where there's a long history of trade and commerce, in the United States perspective, you kind of want to go a little bit more backwards, you know, but then it's different types of people that you encounter along the way. Same as us here. There's different brands of South Africans in different pockets of the country, and you kind of got to know where you want to go and who you want to network with, and often it is like taking the bold step to start from scratch, eh? And so many people have just left what they've had. They've left their jobs and they said, right, well, I know this person on this piece of land, and I'm going to go with what I got, with my family, and we start. And that takes a lot of courage. That takes big kahunas, you know?
Yeah.
But if it's really resonating within self and it's in your vortex, you'll find it.
Right. You know, I do wonder why I have not found anything yet. And part of what seems like to be the answer to that question is that I'm supposed to be anchoring, light here in New York. And it really does feel like that's the case. At the same time, it's just like, I would like to go and be in peace, please. Thanks.
I respect you as a light worker being in a place like New York. Wow, you really are in the midst of it, and full power for your strength. I was in Johannesburg up until about 2-3 years ago, also feeling a similar calling to be there and to do the work for a really hectic city. It's really hectic there. Yeah, so I mean, the strongest ones incarnate into the the most difficult spaces. So, much respect and full power for what you're doing up there, Natasha.
Yeah, I feel like everybody, most people left, and I'm just like, not everybody can't leave. So like, it just makes sense that some of us are just like, that's fine, we're here. And you know what? The some of us that are still here, we kind of keep to ourselves. We have our own little world. I have my own little little home that very, the vibes are good, everything's good. I like to get my food delivered. I just I go to the park. It's like, I do go out into the spaces, but that's like, when things are needed,
Sure.
for the most part, most of my time is kind of spent in peace, so it's all good.
That's good. It's wonderful. You've created a safe space, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to also ask you about your TED Talk, if you're comfortable sharing with us.
Yeah, sure.
Put the info down into the show notes.
Sure.
So people could see it if they.
I wish I prepared for that TED Talk a little bit more, but I had recently graduated from my organic leadership course in Germany and Croatia. So I was doing an international course on organic agriculture and the leadership required around changing policy within your country and figuring out how to do local food systems and pushing for a shift towards organic. So they equipped us with those skills. And shortly before I left, I got the call to say, like, yeah, man, you've been doing some interesting stuff in the field of agriculture, and we would like to have you present at TEDx Johannesburg. So I was like, wow, okay, cool. That's an amazing opportunity to try and get it out across in 15 minutes, which is a challenge. But yeah, it's really a passion that came through. I didn't prepare much. I kind of just winged it. Because it lives within inside me. So yeah, I mean the TED Talk is about this work that we're doing here in South Africa and Southern Africa. Changing the way that the food system runs. We've got probably the most unequal food system in the world in South Africa. Huge amounts of government corruption, huge amounts of social inequality, youth unemployment. So agriculture is really one of the primary ways that we can solve the socioeconomic challenges that we face here in our space. And yeah, that TEDx was just about that and thinking laterally as a designer in the field of agriculture, hacking the farm.
Sweet. So, and then the last thing that I like to most of the time ask my guests is if you could give a short piece of advice to the listeners, what would it be? Take a minute to think about it if necessary.
Sure. I would say it boils down to connecting with the other people that you resonate with. and figuring it out together. The power is within the network. If we want to see a sovereign future, hold that into your mind's eye, manifest your homies, and go and get it done.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, Matt, thank you so much for coming on and having this wonderful talk with us and bringing some info forward that has not yet been talked about in on this series. So,
Natasha, thank you. Thank you for hosting, and thank you for doing your work that you do and covering all the amazing work that people are doing. So thank you.
Yeah, you're doing amazing work. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.